This is a Lexus RX300, model year 2002. We have some seepage from the transmission pan. It's most visible right here. There's a slow drip, very slow drip at the rear of the transmission pan. So we're going to replace the transmission pan gasket. Our first step is to drain the transmission. This drain plug takes a 10mm Allen key. This is our setup with the socket wrench and the Allen key. This drains pretty quickly, and we're collecting all the transmission fluid so we can measure it and see how much came out, so we know how much to put back in. This empty bottle of oil has graduation marks on the back, so we're going to pour the transmission fluid in it and see how much came out. A little bit hard to see. I've added some marks with a marker pen. The fluid comes up to 1, 2, 3, 4, just over 4 1/4. So that's how many quarts have come out. This pan is held in by 18 bolts with each with a 10mm hex head. So we got our work cut out for us. These bolts are not torqued very tightly, and they zip right off with a little impact driver. There we go. All the bolts are removed. The pan is just held up by adhesion, so we tap it gently with a rubber mallet, and this breaks the seal. The pan came off easily with a couple of gentle taps. Remember to support it while you tap it, because otherwise it'll just fall right off. And let's see, there's the magnet right here. Okay, I think you can see that. And we want to clean that off. There's a little bit of fluid left in the pan also. Here is the filter. The filter is held by 3 bolts, 1, 2, and 3. And they are also a 10mm bolts that we can zip right off, and we're going to replace the filter with a new one. With the bolts unfastened, the filter pulls right off, and of course there's more fluid that is going to pour out when you remove it. So we just set it down, and this is the opening for the new filter right here. This is the new filter and gasket seal kit. It's the same for many Toyota and Lexus vehicles with the U141E automatic transmission. Let's see what's inside. Here's what comes in the kit. There's a new filter, and there's a new rubber gasket. The new filter pushes up into the opening. Here's a look at the 3 bolts. They're the same length. The bolts are M6. They do not need to be torqued very tight. Probably about 10 foot-pounds, or just hand snug, hand tight is enough. This pan actually has 3 magnets, 1, 2, and 3. And now that we've got it out in the light, we can see all 3 of them. Of course, we're going to clean all 3 magnets thoroughly before we put them back. We need to get what's left of this old gasket off the pan, so we're going to scrape it off. We're going to scrape it off using a razor. We have thoroughly cleaned the pan, paying particular attention to the flange area. We've replaced the magnets. This is probably the cleanest that this pan has been since the day it left the factory. Next, let's take a look at how we apply the gasket. For getting the gasket onto the pan, I use this stuff. It's a high-tack sealant. It's basically an adhesive, and it'll get the gasket to stick to the pan so it doesn't fall off when we go to put it on. So to apply this, just brush it on, brush it off. Doesn't really take a whole lot, and just brush it on lightly all over here. So I'm going to let it tack up for a minute. While it is tacking up, I set the oil pan aside. Going to get the gasket itself. I'm going to flip it over. And I'm going to put this stuff on the side that mates with the pan. So I get it all over the gasket. So we just let this tack up for a minute. And now the gasket and the pan are going to stick together very nicely. We want to make sure that the holes are nicely lined up. Okay, make sure all the holes are nicely lined up. There's no second chance for this. Haha. There we go. And now when we go over to put this on the car, it's not going to fall off. Okay, we're going to wipe any remaining fluid off of this flange. And next, we take our gasket, we take our pan with the gasket, and we just need to get a couple of these bolts started to hold it up here. So there, the pan is supported, and now we can thread the remaining 15 bolts and tighten them down. So once we have a few bolts started, we can start to tighten them into place. And these do not take a lot of torque. They take maybe 10 foot-pounds of torque, which is just a little bit more than hand tight. The pan is back on. We've tightened all 18 bolts. We made sure that the drain plug is tight. We're going to refill it with ATF from the top, from the dipstick tube. Our fill for the transmission is through the dipstick tube, which is right on this side of the engine to the front. Right there, you can see it. We've set a funnel in the fill tube, and we're ready to start filling one bottle at a time. We took 4 1/4 bottles, 4 1/4 quarts out, so we're going to pour 4 1/4 quarts in. And here we just pour slowly. We don't let it overfill. We don't let it like overflow and bubble up. Just kind of pour down at a trickle. I used this Valvoline Max Life, had really good luck with it, and it's compatible with a big range of vehicles. You can read all the different vehicles that it works with on the back. We got it all filled up. Next we would start the engine and check the level. Yeah, these marks on the dipstick, okay, with the transmission fluid cold and the engine running, the fluid level has to be at these two lower marks, and with the transmission warm, it goes up to these two marks. So I hope you can see these. Let me focus on them a little bit better. Okay, you have the upper marks, the upper two marks for warm fluid, and the lower two marks for cold, and that is with the engine running. So that's it for our repair of this transmission oil pan gasket. Thanks for watching.